Chapter 29. Stephen Schroeder was resting comfortably in the City View Medical Center in Austin, Texas. He'd undergone surgery the previous evening to repair the broken bones in his wrists and ankles and was still groggy from the anesthetic. A policewoman named Kate Williams had recently arrived and was sitting in one of the visitors' chairs in Stephen's hospital room. Officer Williams was around the same age as Stephen, in her late 20s. She had red hair, fair skin, freckles, and captivating blue eyes. Earlier, she'd spoken with one of the doctors handling Stephen's surgery to understand the extent of his injuries. As the officer responding to the original call, she'd examined his apartment, looking for clues to help resolve the case. Apart from Stephen's injuries, there were water droplets on the floor, and the shower curtain, presumably torn off the rail, was found covering Stephen. All in all, there wasn't much evidence to work with. The print team had been called, dusted for prints, and was now checking their database for hits, but they held out little hope that would result in anything substantial. Upon her arrival at the apartment, it was evident that Stephen was in severe pain and only partially conscious. The paramedics were checking his injuries and, unbeknownst to them, had accidentally repositioned the note left on the pillow. The note had fallen behind the headboard and was left unnoticed. A female nurse came into the room, glanced at Kate, and checked on Stephen. "How long until he can answer some questions?" Kate asked. "He's coming out of it now, so it shouldn't be long," she replied, then dashed out of the room. Stephen lay on the bed with casts on both his wrists and ankles. The cast on his arms wrapped around his hands, exposing his fingers, and ran up the arm halfway to his elbows. His feet were covered except his toes, and the cast went up to just below his knees. Kate was sure these injuries were sent as a message and needed Stephen to fill in the gaps. "Hopefully, he knows what this was all about," she thought to herself. She sat quietly, looking at the young man she'd been introduced to yesterday, although their introduction wasn't the usual kind. She'd run a check on him in their database and found nothing to indicate he'd be the kind to be involved in this type of crime. That said, there were probably millions of criminals out there who just hadn't been caught yet. Stephen started to stir and opened his eyes. He appeared disoriented, and Kate moved to the side of the bed. "Stephen Schroeder?" she asked. Stephen turned toward her and blinked a few times. Who are you? Where am I?" "You're in the hospital. You were injured last evening around supper time. Do you remember being injured?" Stephen's face contorted as he recalled the events. "I remember I was just about to get out of the shower when the shower curtain came off the rail covering me. Then I remember lying on the floor and hearing a man's voice talking to me." "Do you recall what the man was saying?" "I think he wanted me to repeat something he was telling me." "Do you remember what he was telling you?" Stephen squinted his eyes, trying to remember the message, but he only recalled the fear he felt. "No, he said he would kill me if I made any noise." Tears came to his eyes as he was transported back to that scene in his mind. "That's okay. We can talk about this later when you've had more time to recover from your surgery." "My surgery? What surgery?" "You've had surgery to repair your injuries." Again, Stephen's face contorted, wondering what she was talking about. "Look, I'll get a nurse and she can explain it to you. I'll be right back." Kate left the room and searched for someone who could provide information regarding his injuries. As she approached the nurse's station, she saw the nurse who was previously in Stephen's room. Walking up to her, she said, "He's awake now and asking questions regarding the surgery." "Okay, I'll page the doctor. He should be the one to inform him about that." "Fine. Hopefully the doctor won't be long." Returning to the room, Kate found Stephen crying quietly with his face turned away. Her heart went out to him, and she approached the bed, putting her hand on his shoulder. He quickly turned toward her with a look of surprise. "I'm sorry for startling you. I didn't mean to do that." "It's okay," he said, regaining some composure. "I was thinking about the man's voice." "You keep saying the man's voice, not the man. Why is that?" "I don't know. I only remember his voice." "Do you know if you ever saw the man during the attack?" "I don't know for sure. I don't remember seeing anyone." It happened so fast. Tears welled up in his eyes again. That's okay. It would be best if you rested for now. We can discuss this when you're up to answering questions. The doctor arrived at the door and introduced himself to Stephen and Kate as Dr. Rosenthal. Kate excused herself and left the room while the doctor provided Stephen with the details regarding the extent of his injuries and the surgical repairs. He informed Stephen that due to the extent of his injuries, he'd performed an open reduction and internal fixation on both ankles, using metal rods, plates, and screws to realign his bones. The metal hardware would be left in place even after his ankles healed, but if the hardware started causing problems in the future, he would remove them later. When the doctor came out of the room, Kate asked if she could ask a couple of questions. Sure, but I only have a couple of minutes, the doctor offered. This won't take long, she said, with her best voice of authority. Stephen only remembers hearing the man's voice when he recalls the incident. Is it possible that he's blocked out the image of the man because of the attack? Or could the anesthetic cause that? It's hard to say for sure. In 24 hours, the effects from the anesthetic will all have worn off, so he may be able to provide more detail at that time. He likely has a bit of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder due to the attack. If that's the case, eventually, he might remember more of the events that took place during the attack. Okay, thank you, doctor. There are 2 other things to consider, he quickly added. What would those be? Number 1, he didn't see the person who attacked him. Yes, that's a definite possibility. And the second? He knows who the attacker is, and he's either protecting him or is too fearful to identify him.